US 12. Yeah. Alright, we are talking about the western portion of US 12. The Chiefs are hosting the Chicago Bears in a preseason game this week. So we're starting in Chicago and we're going all the way to Aberdeen. Both of them. We see the western portion of US 12. We already covered the eastern portion from Detroit to Chicago last week. The western portion will go from Chicago to Aberdeen, Washington, and we will only be going westbound in today's video. So let's take a look at westbound US 12. So we're going to start right where we left off, going over the Dan Ryan in the south side of Chicago, 95th Street, and this is the 95th Street CTA Red Line stop. 95th Street becomes kind of a boulevard as we cross through this part of Chicago. And now we've got a 2 I-94 and 2 I-57 sign. That would be Halsted Street, where you would turn to get to both of those, or rather to I-57, which goes to I-94. Here is the Beverly 95th Street train station. I've never actually used this one personally, but I have used the 99th Street train station on the Metro just 4 blocks south of this. Beverly is a place I know pretty well, this part of Chicago, and this is Baracco's Pizza, which I definitely recommend. And right here is Bell Avenue. This is where my grandma used to live for, I don't know, like 50 years, something like that. We get to 95th and Western. This is the Evergreen Plaza, which I think was the first suburban mall in Chicago. It's in Evergreen Park. We cross the Evergreen Park line at Western. This is what it used to look like going back a few years. It's now sort of an outdoor thing. It used to be a big indoor mall. This would be more familiar to me, being that my grandma lived right here. I've been at this mall 80,000 times. And right beyond the mall, we've got the White Castle that we always used to go to from my grandma's house. Probably the first White Castle I ever ate at. Good stuff. Coming further along at around Costner, this is Petey's Bungalow. This is a pretty good old-timey restaurant. I feel like the menu's been the same for 100 years. My cousin used to work at this place. And speaking of my cousins lived in Oak Lawn, right down from Beverly where my grandma lived, and this is where we enter Oak Lawn as we cross Cicero Avenue, Illinois Highway 50. We get Southwest Highway, always the southwest side of Chicago's most confusing street since it's a diagonal. Always adds extra time to every street that it intersects stoplight-wise. Here's the Chicago Ridge Mall a little bit further down. It's seen better days for sure. I used to hang out at this mall with my cousins and whatnot quite a bit. Even went on a date with a girl there when I was 14. And now we're getting the intersection for Harlem Avenue, Illinois 43. And at this point, 95th Street kind of becomes sort of an expressway kind of thing. And we see here, 95th Street looks quite a bit different than it did before as we take 12 and 20 under these train tracks. And now we have the intersection for 294 here in Hickory Hills, 294 North Wisconsin, 294 South Indiana. We will definitely do that road one day. And this is the farthest west I've ever been on 95th Street. I've always just gotten on 294 from this point. But 95th Street does not go very much further west. Just a little bit further down from the Tri-State, we run into LaGrange Road, US 45, and 12 and 20 are going to turn right to have a triplex here. We meet 294 once again, and we're also going to have an interchange for Archer Avenue, Illinois 171. And a little ways down, we are going to be meeting I-55, so we've got North Chicago and South St. Louis. On I-55, this is how it is signed: West 12, West 20, North US 45, North LaGrange Road. So no Control City because we're kind of in the burbs, so we're just getting a city street name. A little past 55, we meet Joliet Road. So this is Old Route 66. You can check out my Route 66 video right over here. Old Route 66. I imagine they must have met somewhere different. 12, 20, 45, and 66 all meeting at this random suburban intersection seems a little underwhelming given the stature of those 4 roads. Just a little north of here, we meet US 34, Ogden Avenue. And right here at Cermak, we are changing our street name. We were LaGrange Road, and now we're going to be Manheim Road, continuing north from here. And here we are crossing 290. We don't have an intersection with it, we just cross it. We are going to be losing US 20. US 20 is going to turn left here at Lake Street. US 12 and 45 will continue north on Manheim. And here is Irving Park Road, Illinois 19. This is long considered to be one of the most dangerous intersections in the Chicagoland area. Manheim and Irving Park right near O'Hare. I've been through this before. One time I had to take Irving Park Road all the way home from the suburbs to where I lived in the city, which took a long time, but I had a mattress kind of lassoed to the roof of my car, and I was on the freeway for one exit and it almost flew off, so city streets the rest of the way. We pass right by O'Hare Airport, and here it is just to our left. And now we're meeting I-190, 190 east for Chicago because it is going to dump into 90, and west 190 for O'Hare. And this is actually technically the Kennedy Expressway here as well. Just beyond O'Hare, we pass by the Rosemont Horizon. I've seen a couple of things here. I saw a Weezer and Foo Fighters show in 2005 in this arena, and that was an awesome show. And now we're meeting US 14 here in Des Plaines, right by the Des Plaines Theater. And yes, it is called Des Plaines, not Des Plaines. And now US 12 is finally going to leave US 45. We are going to turn left here at Rand Road and continue our actual westerly configuration. Right here we meet the Illinois 53 freeway. 290 becomes 53 after passing the Northwest Tollway. And now we get to Lake Cook Road, so we are entering Lake County and entering the deeper suburbs now. We pass right by Fox Lake, which has a town named after it. And I don't know anything about these Northwest burbs, so I'm going to jump to the Wisconsin state line. So welcome to Wisconsin. We've got county letter roads going here, B and H. So Genoa City one way and Lake Geneva the other. We will be going toward Lake Geneva. On Wisconsin 50, we see that 12 is signed for Chicago and Lake Geneva in one direction, Madison in the other. And now we get to exit 328 for Wisconsin 120 and 2 Wisconsin 36 for Lake Geneva and Burlington. This is our first exit request of this episode. This was requested by saturnotaku, so thank you so much for that request. He wanted me to show this exit because it is the road to Road America Racetrack. He says the legendary Road America Racetrack in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. So thank you so much for that request. And now we are meeting with I-43. I-43 signed for Milwaukee and Beloit. Now in Cambridge, Wisconsin, we are meeting US 18, and we will be concurrent with that for a while. So East 18, you turn right. 412 and 18 West, continue straight. Here is our actual turn for 18, and we see we are assigned for Madison straight ahead for us, and Jefferson turn right for US 18. So lots of early president names in Wisconsin. As we approach Madison, we pass right by this hotel where I stayed on my road trip. It used to be a Night's Inn, and it was horrible. I don't know if it's better now, but it was really bad, and I overslept, and the guy tried to charge me $50 for overstaying, but then I said, I'll just stay one more night. How much is a room? It was like $40. So, okay, well, I'll do that. We are now meeting I-39 and I-90, and I-94 is just around the bend, so we're getting south 39, east 90 for Chicago and Janesville, and we are getting north 39, west 90, and 2 I-94 for Milwaukee and Wisconsin Dells. Milwaukee because of 94, Wisconsin Dells for all of the roads. We will continue straight on 12 and 18 toward Madison. And we are now on Madison's Beltline Freeway, and we get an exit for US 51 right here. And now we're meeting Park Street. It is east US 14 and north 151, so we're getting 2 more US highways joining the party on the Beltline. We've got a 4-way concurrency with 12, 14, 18, and 151 now. And we've got a request from Dan Boehm, I hope I'm pronouncing that the right way, and he wanted to see this 4-way concurrency sign right by the University of Wisconsin Arboretum here in the Beltline of Madison. So thank you so much for that request. I really appreciate that. And now we're going to be losing 18 finally and 151 after a short stay. We will continue with US 14 toward Baraboo and La Crosse. And on the edge of town, we are getting 14 leaving us, heading for Spring Green, La Crosse, and we are on 12 West Baraboo. That is our new control city. And now our freeway is going to end, the Beltline Freeway, and we see we're getting Sauk City 15, Baraboo 31. And here in Sauk City, we pass over the Wisconsin River, and here is our exit for Baraboo. It is leaving us now. We're on kind of a freeway again. And at this on-ramp, we see 12 and West Wisconsin 33 are now signed for Wisconsin Dells. Heading toward Wisconsin Dells, we meet 90 and 94 again. 39 is gone by now. 90, 94 signed for Toma. It's so easy to just sign Minnesota there. And East 90, 94 for Madison, which does make sense. And here we're getting a giant indoor water park, which is kind of the spirit animal of Wisconsin Dells, in my opinion. We haven't quite gotten into the Dells yet. US 12 is going to be turning right, and we are still signed for Wisconsin Dells, but we're in the Dells area now. Here we are in Wisconsin Dells proper, and we see jet boat adventures and stuff like that. Very Wisconsin Dells-y. US 12 is going to continue straight at this point. And on the other side of the Dells, we are meeting 90 and 94 once again. If you get off of 90 onto US 12, we see turning left on West US 12 will sign us for Linden Station. And now we're getting Mauston 12. Must be a pretty important city to stand alone like that. Weird, because I've never heard of it. And here in Mauston, we see New Lisbon is going to be our next control city heading west. In New Lisbon, we will now have Camp Douglas as our control city, heading straight here. And not too far out now, we are seeing Oakdale and Tomah, so Tomah becomes our bottom line road. And on US 12, that's fine. Meaning I-90 here, this is right after 90 and 94 split, so we are getting Tomah and La Crosse straight ahead, Madison, turn right. And here we are in Tomah, where the eyes divide, is what I'd always heard. Sparta is going to be straight ahead. I know my dad rode a bicycle from Tomah to Sparta, or the other way around at some point, but we are turning right toward the Amtrak station. Before leaving Tomah, we meet I-94 again, because they had just split, so now we get I-94 right after the split, so we're getting Eau Claire and Madison. And as we leave the freeway, we see Black River Falls will be our next control city. And as we continue on over to there, we are going to see that Melrose will now be our control city. And we're going to meet I-94 once again. We are kind of near I-94 throughout this entire area. We meet Wisconsin 95, and Fairchild will now be our control city, heading straight ahead. And now we're meeting US 10, and we are going to be joining US 10, so we turn left. And now we split with US 10. We're going to be north of US 10, off grid for just a little bit here, and Fairchild will be our immediate control city. We're kind of in Fairchild right now, and Augusta will be the next control city as we turn right. And then here in Augusta, we are now getting Eau Claire as our control city, which makes sense. We head toward Eau Claire, we're meeting US 53, so US 53 is a freeway here, 53 north for Superior, 53 south for La Crosse, and 2 I-94. Coming off of US 53, we see US 12 is signed for Elk Mound and Menominee, and we see I-94 is straight ahead of us here, but we are actually turning off toward Elk Mound right before this junction on the outskirts of Eau Claire. And turn right for US 12, we see we're now signed right for Menominee, and we are also joining Trunk Route Wisconsin 29. You can check out my video I made on that one as well. Here we are in downtown-ish Menominee going around the lake, and we are going to be signed for Baldwin next. We're going to make a shallow right off of Wisconsin 29 toward Baldwin. Here in Baldwin, we're meeting US 63, and we're going to be joining that. We'll be turning right for Hudson for us. And now US 63 is going to be signed for Amory. I actually went camping there one time. I did some kind of archery course and camped there with my friends. It was pretty cool. Turn left for Hammond and Hudson on US 12. We don't actually quite get to Hudson. Instead, we meet I-94 once again. We will be joining I-94 at this point, so West 94 and West 12 for St. Paul. We're in Minnesota now. I skipped ahead into St. Paul, and here is where we get the US 52 South sign. So meeting the great US 52, did a couple of videos on that as well. We continue straight, but we have no US 12 pull-through sign. We are with US 10 once again, as we can see too. And in Minneapolis, we pass the Basilica St. Mary, and we are going to be getting onto 394 and 12 west to leave I-94. 394 doesn't last very long. It just makes it to 494, and now we are going to be on US 12 west, Wayzata. And we see Maple Plain and Litchfield. I don't know these places in rural Minnesota, but we'll skip ahead to Litchfield. And in Litchfield, we see we're getting Eden Valley and Wilmer straight ahead, so we'll jump over to Wilmer. In Wilmer, we meet US 71, so US 71 north here for Sauk Center and St. Cloud. After US 71 and Wilmer, we don't get another control city, but I think maybe it's de facto this, Benson? Way better than it being on I-40. Outside of Benson, we meet US 59, which sadly is not signed for Lawrence, Kansas southbound. And past US 59, now we are finally getting a control city. We get Ortonville 26. Just before Ortonville, we meet US 75. I had a northbound US 75 video not long ago that you can check out. And just before heading into downtown Ortonville, we cut off of Minnesota. We are going to turn left on US 12 to continue over to South Dakota. But they don't give us any control cities, as Minnesota is wont to do. They give us nothing. Just a little ways down, though, we are getting Big Stone, South Dakota 1, Millbank, South Dakota 12. Welcome to South Dakota. So obviously we are in Big Stone now. And in Big Stone, we are getting Millbank as our next control city. And we get a long distance one now here, Millbank 10 and Aberdeen 107. Now we're meeting US 212 and Webster is straight ahead. This is in Millbank. Shortly thereafter, we meet I-29. I-29 gets terrible control cities here, Watertown and Sisseton. I don't know what South Dakota is doing there. Wow, that is awful. US 12 is a big road and an important road in South Dakota. It's the main way to Aberdeen. We should be getting better control cities here. On I-29 itself, we get 12 signed for Aberdeen and Millbank instead of for Webster. So I think that's probably better signage. And now here in Webster, we are going to be signed for Groton, not sure. We're going to skip ahead to Aberdeen though. We are now in downtown Aberdeen. And Aberdeen is actually the third largest city in South Dakota with like 27,000 people. So that's pretty shocking. In the Aberdeen area, we meet US 281 and we are signed for Ipswich. Ipswich remains our bottom line control city at 25 miles away, which is pretty bad because Ipswich has under 1,000 people. Now here in Ipswich, we are now getting Selby in the bottom line. Just before Selby, we meet US 83, so we are going to be concurrent with US 83 for a short time here. And after Selby, we are going to split with US 83, and we are now signed for Mobridge. After leaving the town of Mobridge, we get McLaughlin, 29. So another just by itself sign, as if though it's the most important city in the world. That's kind of weird. And right here, right outside of Mobridge, we cross the Mo Bridge, the bridge over the Missouri River. And here we are in McLaughlin, population 563, definitely should be signed just by itself, definitely worthy of that. Come on, South Dakota. And now we are going to be signed for McIntosh. In McIntosh, it looks like our next control city is going to be Lemon. And here in Lemon, now we are getting Hettinger, North Dakota signed. So we are actually angling into North Dakota. We don't cut straight across South Dakota. And here is our sign for North Dakota. I imagine there's not too many east-west routes that go into both Dakotas. In North Dakota, we are getting Hettinger, 7 miles away, straight ahead. And in Hettinger, now we are getting Bowman, 40 miles away. So let's jump over to Bowman. In Bowman, we meet US 85, and we are now signed for Rame straight ahead, and we are concurrent with US 85 for a brief period. And here is where US 85 leaves us, and we continue west on 12. So now we are getting Rame 13, Baker 46. Baker is in Montana, but they don't tell us that. I suppose it doesn't really matter. And honestly, they probably should have been signing Montana cities from somewhere in South Dakota, possibly as soon as Aberdeen. And now we enter Montana. Yeah. Here in Baker, now we're going to be signed for Miles City, which is a good choice, and that's maybe out of Aberdeen what should be signed because there's really small towns in between the two. We go straight for Miles City, but we are joining I-94 once again. And once we join 94, we see Rosebud, Forsyth, and Billings, and Forsyth, the secondary control, is where we're going to be leaving. So we'll skip ahead to Forsyth. You can check out the 94 video on previously existing videos. And 12 West is signed for Forsyth and Roundup, because we hit Forsyth right away. And in fact, at our very first intersection in leaving the freeway, we are now signed for Roundup. We cross over the Yellowstone River, and right here, I believe I went camping right here as well, somewhere in Forsyth, right along the Yellowstone. And now we're going to be meeting US 87, and we are going to be converging with that. If you go the other way on 87, it's signed for Lewiston, not that Lewiston, Montana. And we turn left for Billings and Harlowtown. And now when we split with US 87 goes straight for Billings. We turn right for Harlowtown. In Harlowtown, we meet US 191, the Great 191. We'll definitely get to that one day. And we split with 191. 191 is going to turn left and go south toward Big Timber, Montana. Sounds like a very US 191 city. We are heading for White Sulphur Springs straight ahead. Shortly before White Sulphur Springs, we meet US 89, another great road, and US 89 North cuts off here. We are continuing with US 89 concurrently into White Sulphur Springs. Here we are in the large city of White Sulphur Springs that they obviously have not done Street View on in 15 or more years. US 12 and 89 are both going to be turning left for Livingston and Helena. Again, very sketchy. I apologize for the terrible street view, but we are going straight, and US 89 is going to be leaving us here. We're heading for Helena. Here we are heading into Townsend, Montana, and we are meeting US 287, which seems to be a pretty interesting road. It seems like it's everywhere. I got to try that one day. Check that one out. Turn left on 287 for Three Forks and Bozeman. Turn right for 12 and 287 for Helena. Just outside of Helena, we are losing 287. It is joining I-15 north for Great Falls. We are still continuing 12 west for Helena. Here is downtown Helena on US 12. It's a one-way street, and you can see the state capitol in the distance there from US 12. I'll cut over a few blocks off 12 and get a better look at the state capitol, because I don't know when we'll be in Helena again. Continuing down US 12 and it's one way, we have downtown Helena turn left and West 12 for Missoula turn right. On the way to Missoula, we pass McDonald Pass here, a high pass, and we've got a nice mountain road heading down the mountain toward Missoula. We're going to be meeting I-90 here because I-94 no longer exists, and we are going straight toward Missoula, which will also merge us onto I-90. If you turn left, you can take eastbound 90 for Butte. And here's a closer look at that sign we just saw. So Garrison frontage road turn left, Missoula goes straight, and you can see us merging onto I-90 there. So you can see I-90 videos that I've done before, and we're going to skip ahead. Here we are in Missoula, and we are exiting off of 12 West Van Buren Street. Heading down 12 through Missoula, we turn left for 12 for University. And as we head toward the University of Montana area, we pass that big M on the mountain for Montana University. And we see 12 is going to be veering to the right. We're right in the university area here, and this looks like a pretty hip part of town near the University of Montana. And on the outskirts of Missoula, we're meeting US 93, so we will be concurrent with US 93 now going straight. And here in Lolo, we are splitting off of US 93. US 93 south for Hamilton. We're getting Lewiston, Idaho, which is quite a swing from this point, as we'll see. So Lolo Hot Springs, 25 miles away, a little different than the city of Lolo, and Lewiston, Idaho, 209. Why are we getting such a long distance control city at this point? Let me show you. Well, a lot of the road pretty much looks like this. We've got a small twisty mountain road going through this area, and between Lolo and Cooksey, we have no meaningful intersections whatsoever for this whole 134 mile stretch through the mountains. So Lewiston does make sense to be signed here. And welcome to Idaho. We meet Idaho at the top of the probably Bitter Roots right here. And we've got lovely scenery going down the mountain. I always love when they got that winter street view going. Here's where we finally meet our first intersection in Kuski, and we are getting Lewiston straight ahead. Doesn't really get a whole lot more urban or even suburban as we continue along. It is still very rural, very countryside, very beautiful on US 12 through this stretch. We are driving along the Clearwater River through Idaho here. And now we're going to be meeting US 95 at an interchange, so 95 north will be concurrent with us as we head toward Lewiston. Just before Lewiston, we lose 95. 95 north signed for Moscow and Coeur d'Alene. Did a 95 south video. We'll do a 95 north one during one of the Raiders games this year. And we are signed 12 Lewiston, Walla Walla. Here is the port of Lewiston, the most inland Pacific port. This is a long way from the Pacific Ocean, but it is still an ocean-going port. And now we are going to cross the Snake River into Washington State. In Washington, right across from Lewiston, we have the city of Clarkston. Makes sense. Port of Clarkston is here, and we see that is to the right. And right here, we get a Welcome to Washington sign. Welcome to Washington, our last state in this video. 12 West sign for Walla Walla. Got some beautiful scenery here as we drive along the Snake River. And right here is where we cut in from the Snake River and no longer drive along it. We pass a historic trail, I'm guessing a Lewis and Clark historic trail given the area that we're in. And now here in Waitsburg, we meet Washington 124, and we turn left on US 12 for Walla Walla. Here we are in Walla Walla, 2nd Avenue City Center. We're kind of a freeway going through Walla Walla here. And here's a look at downtown Walla Walla from the interchange with 2nd Avenue on US 12. On the outskirts of Walla Walla, now we're getting US 12 West Pasco. And here we meet US 730, a kind of weird route. I think maybe the only 7 US highway. West 12 Pasco. And now we've got the Columbia River right next to us, so that is the Columbia River just there to the left. Heading into the Tri-Cities, we cross the Snake River, and we can see the Snake River and Columbia River convergence just there in the distance beyond that railroad bridge. And now we're getting exit 14, 395 North Spokane, and that pull-through sign is on this ramp. It is not on the actual primary road lanes. Coming from the 395 direction, we get South 395 and West 182 for Richland and Pendleton. So we don't get any sign for US 12 here. Weird. The US 12 just goes away briefly. Here's the end of 182. You can see 182 in my I-82 video, and we are going to be on 82 I-82, and 12 west for Prosser and Yakima. Easily be Yakima and Seattle. We'll skip ahead to Yakima because you can check out the I-82 stuff in the I-82 video. And 12 is leaving for Natchez and White Pass. It's kind of interesting little road we pass here right outside of Yakima. We're entering the city of Glede. And here in Natchez, we are getting 12 west for White Pass still. 12 east would be signed for Yakima. And here is White Pass as we pass over these mountains, the White Pass Recreation Area. A little bit after that, we get a wonderful view of Mount Rainier, maybe my favorite mountain, beautiful mountain. Continuing down the Rainier area, we are getting Mount Rainier National Park right next exit, but there was no view of it from there, only from before. Later on, we're getting 7 north for Morton and Tacoma. We're kind of in Morton right now, but Morton and Tacoma turn right. And we see at this point 12 east would have been White Pass and Yakima, and west is for Mossy Rock. Here we are in Mossy Rock. There's not much to it, and we don't get any kind of control city from Mossy Rock whatsoever. And right here we pass over Maysfield Lake, very nice looking. And now we're meeting I-5, the end of this part of I-12. So we head west on 12 and north on 5 for Seattle. And on I-5, this is what the exit for US 12 looks like. We see 12 east, Morton and Yakima. So fairly long distance control cities because there's really not anything around nearby that you can sign. Here we get a nice overhead mileage sign for our next exit and Olympia and Seattle. And we'll skip ahead to when US 12 leaves us. I might be doing an I-5 reboot later on this season. There's a good chance I will. Otherwise, you can check out I-5 stuff in my existing video. And 12 west for Aberdeen right here. We see left, we get US 12, Rochester, and Aberdeen. Here we meet Washington Highway 8, East Olympia. We have this weird configuration of Washington 8 and US 12 and US 101 all being one continuous road and being the coastal route from Olympia. Right here, 8 ends, so 8 East Olympia, 12 gets onto this freeway and continues for Elma and Aberdeen. And right here we get a mileage sign, Montesano and Aberdeen, and whatever was is greened out at the bottom. Let's look back in the past. Well, we have to go back to 2013. It's been greened out since then. Ocean Shores 42, because that would again be continuing on the 101 route. So maybe that's why they took it off, because it's not on US 12. And now we cross over the bridge and into Aberdeen, Washington, home of Kurt Cobain. And now we are getting the end of US 12 as we meet US 101's northbound lanes. Boss King Inc. wanted to see the end US 12 because he thinks it's weird how we have the E bigger than the other two letters on end. And he's right, it is kind of weird. So thank you so much for that request. And if you go one block further down, you can get on southbound 101. Northbound 101 would have been turning at the other one. So that is the 101. I'll be trying to get to that sometime possibly this year as well, but no promises. All right, let's take a look at Todd's the way it should be for Western US 12. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to say Western US 12 starting in Chicago should be Oak Lawn, LaGrange, O'Hare, Des Plaines, Lake Zurich, Lake Geneva, Madison, Baraboo, Wisconsin Dells, Tomah, Eau Claire, Menominee, Baldwin, Hudson, St. Paul, Minneapolis, Wayzata, because why not, and Wilmer, Ortonville, Aberdeen, Mobridge, Miles City. So I think from Aberdeen, maybe sign Mobridge because there's that bridge and there's a recreational area there or whatever, but you could just sign Miles City from there too, because there is nothing in South Dakota and North Dakota. Then Forsyth, Roundup, Helena, Missoula, Lolo, Lewiston, Walla Walla, Pasco, Richland, Yakima, Mount Rainier, Morton, Mossy Rock, I-5, because there's really nothing to sign at all beyond Mossy Rock, and then finally Aberdeen. All right, thank you so much for watching this episode of Control City Freak. I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun, and next week we are going with a road that's almost as beautiful and interesting as this wonderful US 12, which is, Indiana 16? Really? Indiana 16? Okay. All right, I guess we're doing Indiana 16 next week. So come back for that, and until next time, my name is Todd, and keep on trucking.